Okay, APS 4-inch premium iBoard running boards for my truck. Each one of those tiles is 12 inches, so that'll give you an idea of how long the box is. It came with that plastic strapping around it. Box is actually kind of heavy. There was tape around the straps on the ends, so it's packed quite nicely. Both ends had tape around them. You can still see the remnants of the tape. So inside the box, I already looked at them last night, so this should just lift off. And inside the box, this is the way they're packed. Got the running boards here on the side, which is a chrome finish with a black rubber. They come packaged in plastic to protect them. And then there's another box in the middle with all the hardware. So I'm going to try and install these. There's an excellent video on their website that's going to be much better than anything I do as far as an installation video. But I don't see any issues. There's 3 brackets per side, 3 bolts per side, 3 or 4 bolts, I can't remember now, and a couple of bolts on the bottom of this that fit in these T-tracks, and then bolts and washers come up from the bottom, and once you get everything in the position you want, then you tighten it all down. So it's mostly just going to be laying on the ground doing it. And it rained like crazy last night, so I have to take a tarp out to lay on the ground because I don't want to get wet and muddy. So I'm going to start it and see what happens. Okay, here's all the hardware laid out. 6 brackets, 3 for each side. The universal. You can use brackets on either side. There's a boatload of plastic washers. That has to go between the bracket and the body of the truck. That's the old dissimilar metal thing. Steel brackets, aluminum body, so you want something in there to prevent corrosion. Very important, even though it doesn't look like it. There's 2 different sizes of nuts and washers, and based on the number of them, I'm assuming these are the washers and nuts for the brackets, and these are the washers and nuts for the little bolts that go in the T-slot to hold the running boards to the brackets. So it's really not that big a deal. I mean, you go out, find the mounting places under the truck. I'm pretty sure it's pretty pronounced. Put plastic washers over the studs, put the bracket on, put a washer and a bolt on. These bolts probably got those nylon inserts. Yep. So snug them down, and then after all the brackets are on, then you put these bolts that fit in those slots right there. Put those on. When you've got everything assembled, then you kind of eyeball I guess if you want to get real particular, you could get a tape measure and measure from front to back and from the ground up and all that, but I'm on a slight incline, so I'm just going to eyeball it. Once you got it all eyeballed and everything looks level and fit right, and tighten everything down. I think they say 7 foot-pounds for the 7 foot-pounds or 7 inch-pounds. You have to read the instructions, and then they want you to put a coat of wax on them, and that would complete the installation. So it's really just going to be sticking these things over studs that stick out on the body of the truck, putting a plastic washer on. I should put it down here because that's where it's going to go. Plastic washer on, a nut, on a plastic washer, bracket, steel washer, nut. So you have to do that 9 times for each side. And that's it. The only complaint I've got so far is that I'm an old person and the instructions are printed so small that I need a magnifying glass to read them. You know, all you young whippersnappers could probably read them just fine, but I've had the cataract surgery and it's geared towards far distance and driving, not reading up close. I have to use reading glasses, and even with my reading glasses I still needed a magnifying glass for those instructions. It's really printed pretty small. They could use a full sheet of paper instead of just a half of one. That's my only complaint so far, which is not a big deal because I have magnifying glasses everywhere. Okay, I'm gonna get started on this, see what the deal is. Okay, here I am laying under the truck, front of the, get the sun shining in my eyes, front of the passenger side. You'll see there's a stud, and stud. Those are where the 3 brackets goes. So the order is plastic washer on all 3 studs, put the bracket on, steel washer, and nut, steel. It's got that nylon crap on the inside that makes it a lock nut, and that's it. So there's a 13mm socket that fit it. I had a 1/4 inch drive set staying carrying all this stuff out here and laying down on the ground got me out of breath. I had a 1/4 inch socket set that I had taken camping with me last week, so I'm going to use that. I figure I can put 7 foot-pounds of torque on these things with a 1/4 inch ratchets. So alright, I'm going to put the washers and the brackets on and get them started, and I'll see what it looks like after that. Okay, up to this point I've got the plastic washers on all 9 studs. I've taken longer to take this thing out of the box and sort the hardware, read the instructions. This takes like 20 seconds, 30. I give it 10 seconds for each set of bolts just to be on the, this is nothing to it. Now I'm going to show you what the next the brackets goes on, and then the steel washers and the nylon lock nuts. Okay, all the brackets are on, steel washer, nut. They don't move up and down so much, but they will go back and forth this way. Now I don't know why that is, because the running boards are in T-slots, so you could move them side to side. This is not going to go up and down any at all, so I don't know why you couldn't just go ahead and crank these. In fact, I think I might, since I'm already laying on the ground, just crank these damn things down, and I can move the running boards back and forth in the T-slots to adjust the forward and backwards, or what they call it, bow and stern. The only thing on these things is all these studs have paint on them from the factory, and at least 2 of them. That one there, and one of these others, I forget now. When you're putting them on with your fingers, it gets awful tight real quick, and I was worried that they weren't on, you know, that they're going on crooked or something, but, you know, I eyeballed them, they look straight, so I put the ratchet on them and, you know, two finger turns, and they went right on. It's just my fingers aren't strong enough to get past that paint. But I guess with the paint on there, you'd have to be careful that you're not going to strip the stud out, because I don't know how the hell you'd replace that. You'd have to get a tap or something and run it back over it. But they really don't. It's just the paint on there. It has nothing to do with the product. The paint from the factory on the studs. So if you're just careful when you do it, if you feel resistance, just make sure that it's on there straight. That's the only concern I've had at this point. You can see there's just a little bit of a slot in the things, but it's not even half inch, maybe 7/16, half inch. So I don't know I can't just crank these down while you're down under here. But I'm going to do it. I'm not going to bother with leaving these loose and then having to crawl back down under here with a running board sitting on here. So I'm going to go ahead and tighten these down and then go get the running board and bring it out here. Okay, I got them all snug down. However, one thing that I induced is those little 1/4-inch ratchets, not very deep, and in a couple of places we tighten the nut down, the stud sticks out too far, so I'm gonna have to go get a 13mm wrench and come back out, do these, but they're all on there. What I did was, since there's a slot, I just moved it so that it's in the middle of the slot. To be less than a 1/4 inch from side to side. I don't know why I'd have to do any more than adjustment than that. So they're all down. I can't lift the truck off of me. Alright, I'm gonna go get the running boards and do those. Okay, here's the little bolts, washers and nuts. It goes, slide it in. There's 6 on each side, I guess, because there's 2 holes. 2, 4, 6. So 3 in there. Oops, I'll show you how I'm doing this. 3 in there. Now all I have to do is lay this out and position it so I can get the 3 bolts in there, and then on the bottom of the bracket it will go the washer and another one of these lock nuts, and this is a 10mm, and I got a wrench so I can tighten up the few on the studs for the brackets. So just lay this thing out and kind of sort of space the bolts and set it up into place. Okay, that's just sitting on there. But what I found was you start one end, put the bolts in that, and then you can just use the finger and slide the second set down, and then there's plenty of room to hold it up while you maneuver the second set of bolts. Just use your finger like this and move both bolts at the same time. It really wasn't hard. It is really humid out here. I'm soaking wet. It's not that hot, but it's overcast. But so anyways, all the bolts in there are in there now. So what I have to do is come back and eyeball it, and I think I'm going to move that back. So I got to do to move it back is just kind of slide it. I think how's that? That's kind of like right, maybe a 1/2 inch back behind the back door seam, 1/2 inch above the front door seam. I like that a lot. So it does move in and out. I'm going to have it out as far as I can get it. I should have. I was looking at my friend's truck this morning. He has a 6-inch step, so I only need it for old people like because I don't have any problem getting in the truck without running boards. So that's it. That's where I'm going to put them. Now all I got to do is put the washers and nuts on the bottom and torque them down, and this side will be done. Okay, here's how this goes. I'm going to try and do this. I can't do it because you need both hands to hold the thing up, but the washer goes on there and the little nut goes on, and then you tighten it down. And other than being little, and this thing wiggles around, so you need both hands to kind of hold it still while you get the nut started. It's not a big deal. I've already tightened the 2 front ones up. I'll get this one tightened down, and then I'll go back and double check and make sure that I like the way everything's lined up, and then that'll be it. And I'm not going to film the other side because it's identical to this. So there you have it. I'll show you the finished product when I'm done. Okay, passenger side done. I spent more time. The other side won't take but about 15 minutes, I think. I like the way they look. and that non-slip thing. I think I'm going to be very happy with these. They're quite pretty. Okay, that's it. I ain't gonna film anymore. Other side's exactly the same. So there you have passenger side. The driver's side. So, a couple of things. The paint on the studs down on this door, rear door on the driver's side, seemed to be unusually thick. I had to go get a bigger ratchet. So with the door open, you can see there's a fair amount of room to climb in. Oh man, I like that. I like that a lot, as they say on SV Delos. I like it. I like it a lot. On a scale of how difficult are these things to put on, it's more difficult to get the box from your front porch into the living room. This is just putting in a bunch of bolts and washers and tightening them down. I would recommend going with a 3/8 or bigger ratchet instead of a 1/4 inch. You get more, especially with the paint. My arm's actually tired from tightening those bolts over that paint. You can feel them get warm, although I double checked every single one of them and they weren't. They're just the paint on there puts resistance on them. So that's it. The ABS 4-inch Super Crew cab. This is a 2019 running boards. Looks sharp, easy to install. Because I'm on the Medicare and I can do it, so y'all can too.